drug laws for once.
The country is not devoid of youth of integrity. This country is not devoid of youth of good standing in society. They're not devoid of youth of good education or of leadership capabilities.
What are we occupying today? We need to walk into these political parties, occupy them, consolidate power, and run for those offices come 2027. We are capable, we are able, we young people.
Kama kawaida, form ni kuongea, ikutoke. Good evening and welcome back to yet another Tuesday of the Gen Z Manifesto. As we always say, hapa form ni kuongea, ikutoke. I'm your host, Miss Kahiro, and you know who else ameongea imtoke. Rigiji, the truthful man as they call him, ametuma ujumbe to the head of the state. Akamshow him and his people should sit down and decide what amount of money he allegedly asked for. Ni 10 billion, 6 billion, or 8 billion. Pick a figure, people. And as they figure the figures, students are still trying to figure out the new university funding model, which has now been reinstated by the Court of Appeal. A said victory for the president, an isolated one indeed, because he has been receiving else since he got to office. But still, comrades wanalia. Does this system really serve them? Are the loopholes too much? Today, we ask you, comrades, new funding model inaweza, haiwezi? Talk to us on WhatsApp, tuma ujumbe kama Rigiji. We are here to hear you. Linda, do you have any ujumbe as well to kusikia?
Well, a very good evening to you, Ms. K. And you know, a lot is happening in the education sector. Even before we land or we begin the university funding model, let's talk about the shortage of teachers. You know, TSC today say that there's shortage of teachers. So that's a hit on the education sector. And also the Court of Appeal, despite the backlash, despite students coming out saying that this funding model doesn't suit them, the Court of Appeal still gave a nod to the government to proceed with the model. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an irony. How is the Court of Appeal giving a nod to the government despite the legal battles still ongoing? So there are so many gray areas in this particular discussion, but who else better to explain this to us or even just to shed some light on what's happening qua ground? We have our panelists right here who have been affected directly by this funding model. So that sets the pace for the discussion today, Ms. K.
Thank you so much, Linda. Na umetaja walimu. You know, the president alikuwa pale kwenye mlima na akasema he employed a number of thousands of teachers. Kwani kwa ground ni kama vitu sio kama
hawalipwi.
Hawalipwi.
Yeah.
Right.
Hiyo 6B ya Rigiji wangeweka hii side. Kama wakupea Rigiji basi wangepea walimu.
Allegedly, Linda.
Allegedly.
Kagira with the stats, semaje.
Well, indeed. Tukiongelea history ya comrades, remember this is one of the years where we have the highest applicants were held. That is the year 2024. Wale watu ambao walikuwa wanasema they actually need funding from the government to facilitate their learning. And it was standing at around 600,000. And among all of them, the government settled on funding at least 250,000 students. So, kwa hao 250 ndio sasa wakakumbwa na kitu inaitwa funding model. Though initiated in 2023, ilikuwa ianze kuwa implemented in 2024. And the court has okayed that after zile cases ilikuwa huko as they continue, the court imesema, you know what, you can use the new model as we continue getting to listen to those people who are opposing how it's functioning.
Does it even make sense?
Well, we'll be making sense of, we'll be trying to pick and make sense of it right now. See kama comrades wanaelewa venye ina work in the first place. And if they're actually benefiting from it, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the university funding model.
Thank you so much, Kagina. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Hiyo ndio tunachambua leo. Again, we are asking, in new funding model, inaweza, haiwezi? Please send us your feedback. Meanwhile, acha tusikie watu kwa ground wanasemaje. Majibu.
Kama kawaida mazee, majibu wa ground na kuanga standby kila time mazee. Nauliza, hii funding model inaweza ama haiwezi? Tumerudi lecture hall 101. Tulikuwa na conversation last time kuhusu funding model, lakini tuliongea lakini haikututoka. Sasa leo hii Tuesday tunaongea itutoke. Wanaitaka makombrezi wenyewe ama hawaitaki, ama pia wanataka ifanywe some few adjustments, watoi waweke hii, watenge hii waweke hiyo ingine. Leo tutakuwa na makombrezi, tutakuwa na bonga na wao na few. Kuna mmoja actually nilikuwa naongea naye tu sasa, yeye anasema ni comrade yako MMU multimedia uko Rongai. Alikuwa anasema yes, anasema kulikuwa nayo public participation, alishatoa maoni yake, lakini issue ni hiyo maoni yake ita count ama ilikuwa ni stories za jaba. Haya, narudisha studioni sasa tukagina tupate statistics, lakini tukirudi utasikia ma comrade kitu atasema studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Majibu. In the spirit of Rigiji and Justin Muturi, tunaongea itutoke. Kagina with the stats.
Well, indeed, in the spirit of kuongea ikutoke, it's important to be factual lest you find yourself in trouble. So, looking at the numbers at how the new university funding model looks like. Initially, ilianza na at court case, where people felt like the public was not involved enough. And so the court gave the Attorney General, HELB, and the Ministry of Education 14 days to publicize a proper system for the new funding model, a proper mechanism how they would appeal. And so here are the bands. So band 1, a household is getting around 5,900, and 16% is what is the proportion of what they are being given by the government and what they have. We have band 2 who are household income is 23,670, and that proportion compared to the funding they are getting is around 18% of what they are supposed 18% of the total number of applicants who applied for this loan. We also have band 3. These are households with an income of about 70,000. These make up 18% of the population that applied for this loan. We also have band 4, which is 120,000 shillings. This household, they are getting around 120,000 shillings, and these form the majority of those applying for HELB, which is 42%. We also have band 5, which is an extra category. Those with an income household of about, or household income of 120,000, which makes up 8% of the total number of applicants. However, this does not end here, because the number of income you have, the amount of income you have also matters in terms of the money that you're receiving. For example, we have band 1, where the family will only contribute 5% of what is needed. The student will get a loan of 25%. The government of Kenya will sponsor 70% of their studies, and they will get another loan in terms of HELB now. This is for their stipend, which is at 60,000 Kenyan shillings. This is for this category. Remember, these are households that are earning around 5,000 to 6,000 Kenyan shillings per month. We also have the second band, who are getting 10%. The family will contribute at least 10% of what is needed for the school fees. The student will be proceeded a loan of 30%. The government will sponsor 60% of their education, where else they will get a stipend of at least 55,000 Kenyan shillings in form of a HELB. The two are loans, the 30% in form of loan for tuition, and 55% in terms of assisting them with their day-to-day lives back at campus. We also have the third band, where the family will now contribute 20% of what is needed. Then they will be given a 30% in form of a loan. Government will take care of 50% of the needs, and then they will get a 50,000 shillings stipend. We also have another band. Now this is where they have an income of at least 70,000 Kenyan shillings per month, and these ones will be expected to cater for at least 30% of what is needed as tuition and the school fees for the campus students. 30% will be given in form of a loan. The government now will reduce what it's giving to them, and this is around 40%, and they will also receive the HELB, or rather the loan for their stipend for 45,000 Kenyan shillings. We also have a different category now. These are those earning around 120,000 per month in the household. So the family will take care of 40% of the money that is needed. 30% will be given to the student in form of a loan, and 30% is what the government will be offering. And the government and the stipend will be at around 40,000 Kenyan shillings. So this means the band that you are placed in actually determines how much your family will have to go back in the pocket and produce in order for you to study. And remember, this is what the government is offering. However, we also, as we talk about the new university funding model, it is also important to remember that the costs, the cost of the units as they were initially have changed in what was said to update them to the current demands. And now, with the new university funding model, it will be interesting, very interesting to see for students who are doing the different courses from medicine to arts, how much they will need to part with in form of these percentages. Majibu.
Before we go to majibu kwa ground, mi tu niko na swali moja. Just in case, the economy inaenda vile inataka, just in case my parent akwe auctioned ki Moses Kuria, what happens? Mmenieka band 5. My parent is auctioned the next month, and you've already put me in band 5. What happens?
Going by what we have before we go to Majibu, we'd categorically look at the income that your household is getting. If it's 120, then you will have to part with at least 40% without a change. And I'm told Majibu is eagerly waiting to tell us what the comrades have to say in regards to this conversation. Kama the new funding model inaweza ama haiwezi.
Kagina na Miske mko na maswali. Haya, wacha niulize maswali basi pia mimi hapa nipate majibu. Wacha nianze na baby girl anaitwa Gracie. Niambie kwa mpo gani, na kwanza nikuulize hiyo new university funding model inaweza ama haiwezi?
Kwa majina ni Grace Wangare kutoka Multimedia University. Now in my view, the new funding model is not really working per se, because of the high cost of programs. That is the elephant in the room. If at all the new funding model is to be set, let the cost of program be reduced to an amount that every student can be able to access. Let the household contributions for the students be reduced so that it cannot burden the parents and also the student, for efficiency, and so that every student can have the opportunity to study.
Kampo sai walikuwa band gani?
Walinieka band 5.
Uko sawa. Do you feel like ulifaa kwa hiyo band ama walikumisplace?
Ni makosa na inafaa irekebishwe. Niko band 5 lakini sifai kukua huko clearly.
Itakuja kwa kumlipatwa 21 days za kuappeal. Utaniambia kama uliappeal pia wewe. Basi ngakuja hapa pia uniambie hiyo new university funding model. Leo tunaongea itutoke. Inaweza ama haiwezi?
The new funding model haiwezi kabisa. And even last year we had the protests led by the National Student Caucus. Now, it happened, the High Court ruled on 28th December that the new funding model is unconstitutional because of its discriminatory nature. If we are paying the taxes, we are paying equal taxes. I don't think it's fair if you start saying I'm poor, huyo ni tajiri, so mweke band 1, mweke band 5. It's even against the Article 27 of the Constitution about the equality rights. Asa, we don't see the problem with the old funding model, and we should just go back to the old funding model. Kwa sababu ingine inatuumiza.
Nikuulize, over 400 comrades wako stranded mazee. Hawajua wafanye. Do you feel like wanafaa change vitu kadhaa ama hiyo yote kwende?
Even if they tell us to appeal, these appeals, it's just for formalities. And in this government there is a lot of bureaucracy. Na hakuna kitu ita happen. We know these games warudisha tu, pia sisi tumechoka kuandamana. And what happened on June 25th, ought to have communicated that the youths of this country, of which majority are in the universities, we need a functional system. Hata sisi tumechoka kuandamana. Yes.
Aya, anasema pia amechoka kuandamana. Watoe hiyo kitu. Wanakusikia bro. Acha niongee na pia wewe jina lako na pia uniambie hiyo new funding model inaweza ama haiwezi. Jina.
Okay, my name is Lucy. Of course, the new funding model haiwezi. Si kitu tunafaa kurudia again and again. I think in the status quo, we have an issue. There is a clear disconnect between the ruling class, policymakers, and the people. We clearly know there is a problem, and we cannot continue discriminating students. Yeah, we understand that there are people who cannot get this money, and we still want to push these things to we want them to work. The tendency of the government to come and pull everything down just for the sake of we want to do things differently, things differently. If help wasn't working, why didn't we choose specific things that weren't working within the help system and work on them and correct them, instead of coming up with a completely new system that clearly is not working? It's not a representation of the population. It's not a representation of what we are as a society. Can we find something that can work for all of us and people get satisfied? Yeah.
Acheni bonge na bro pia wewe nikuulizie swali moja briefly, inaweza maiwezi?
My name is Ivan. Your funding model haiwezi because of two reasons. One, the metric enye wanatumia kuput or kuplace our students in those different bandwidths can't work for us students in this sense. If a person ni orphan na if one person ni orphan na akona, ako in a position ya get that amount of money, and there's another person mwenye ni orphan na hayuko in a position of ako anaweza jilipia that fee and all that, watakuwa wamekwa kwa band same, and yet that is not the intention enye this funding model was for. So the idea in itself was wrongly placed and that kind of stuff, but what we are vouching for is to focus on the old model vile ilikuwa, and they should try their level best to at least rectify the places zenye hazija work in that particular funding model.
Aya, kamvuka ameanza kuanguka tao, lakini acha tumuvie side nyingine. Ni bonge na makombe, nasema hiyo convo haiwezi kamilika bila makomrades mazee. Hata mvua ikinyesha tutaongea tu bado hii story. Acha tukujie side nyingine. Nadhani hapa iko fiti. Grace, nataka kuongea nawe kidogo briefly. Umesema mlipatwa 21 days za kuappeal, si ndio? Uliappeal?
Bado sija appeal. I'm really looking for the documents that are necessary that will land me in the correct band. Juu yenye niliekwa, it was really not the one. Bado sija appeal, but in the 21 days I must appeal.
Alafu kulikuwa na hiyo story ya public participation. Ulipeana maoni na do you feel your views will count?
Maoni tulitoa, maoni tulipeana.
Ulipeana maoni gani?
Maoni yangu ilikuwa that the cost of program irudishwe chini. Na hata wakiweka hizo MTIs, let them increase the MTIs, hizo means testing instruments, so that they can favor all students. Yeah.
Aya, Bazupe niongee na wewe. Kulikuwa na public participation, do you feel like views are must today? Na hata wazazi zita count na kutakuwa na any difference?
Unaona kitu happen kwa hiyo public participation. A few individuals are paid 500 shillings to attend those public participation meetings. So wanaenda hapo kusifu the new funding model. Kila mtu aliikataa. At times we are forcing things in this country na tunajua haifanyi, it's not working. Turudi to old funding model, because I have classmates mtu juu aliekwa wrong band inabidi anaenda kufanya mjengo, he's missing classes.
So, unasema kuna makomredu kanjwa do ende waseme hiyo funding model iko fit?
Makombres wanapewa 500 wanaingia hapo KICC Lenana Hall.
Unajua nani mwenye alipelekwa huko?
That's what happens. Those meetings, watu wanalipwa, so you just go to support. That's what happens. Hizi vitu hata najua wao umejionea, but it's just that mambo inaweza chamka kidogo, lakini tunajua that's what happens.
Sitaki nichemkie mimi. Kuja hapa, pia Bazinga kuja hapa hivi. Pia unaambie tu briefly. Kuna hiyo cost ya causes, kuna mwenye amesema cost iko juu sana, na kuna makomrade wenye wamekuwa forced kuquit some of the causes. Wa msela alikuwa anafanya engineering, amequit engineering, ameenda kufanya course nyingine ndogo labda yenye ni a bit cheaper. Kuna makomrade wenye unawajua wenye wamelazimika kufanya shit kayo?
Oh my god, no. No, just because I'm not within the uni environment at the moment, but I'm pretty sure there are.
Utaongeleaje story ya hiyo cost ya hizo causes?
The thing is, hata tukiongelelea cost, you see, when I come from a family with 4 people, even if my parent has like maybe a good amount of money and as a raise 400,000 maybe for a single person, but what about a parent who has 4 kids in uni and all of them maybe are taking engineering courses, which maybe cost 400,000, whatever, for the 4 years? It's still not fair. It doesn't make sense. You see, for me, when I was in uni, it was easier because ilikuwa subsidized. The government catered for a certain percentage. So it was easy for my parents to raise that amount, the remaining amount. Compared to now, things are just way worse.
Aya, bado kwa kampo. Unajua comrade yote mwenye labda amelazimika kuchange course juu ya hiyo funding model.
Simjui kwa jina, but I've heard story.
Wako kadhaa
Na ni wengi sana. Many people are quitting from the sciences, the big prestigious courses to doing Bachelor of Arts, such stuff. So naona ni vibaya juu people had dreams, but because of the cost, their dreams are shattered because the government is not coming in to help. Yet that is their responsibility. Kwa the previous funding model, the government catered for a percentage of 80% for them. So people are left to pay like 20%. In our case, it's very different. You're left to pay like 40%, which is a very huge amount, and many people cannot actually afford. So something needs to be done about the cost of the program so that every student can actually get into doing the prestigious courses like engineering, medicine and stuff.
And journalism.
Yeah, and journalism.
Funding model inaweza ama haiwezi? Sitaki kusema inaweza ama haiwezi. Makomrade wamesema, nyinyi mko na majibu. So nawapeleka mapumziko mafupi kutoka ground, lakini tukirudi convene endelea studio na tutajua leo ndo tunasema tutoke kama inaweza ama haiwezi. Watoe yote ama wafanya few changes. Miss K, naomba nikurudishie break bado. Miss K, chukua usukani.
Right. Majibu nimekusikia. Thank you. We are back in studio. Now, there's a lady there amesema kitu ya maana sana. Amesema that there's a disconnect between the government and the people. Na hii imekuwa claim tangu times the finance bill tena SHA. I wonder if the people here in studio, Linda, kama they think the same. Again, the question of the day is, hii university funding model inaweza haiwezi? Let's hear some feedback from you guys at home. Comrades, new funding model inaweza haiwezi? Sylvester Koech anasema, accepting funding model is accepting to pay fees from primary to secondary to university. Okay, Sylvester. Chege Murimi says, iko sawa. Chege anasema iko tu sawa. I wonder if others here in the studio share the same sentiments. Tutasikia in a minute. John K.E. anasema, no one complained about the previous funding model. Beneficiaries of the previous funding never complained. New funding model could be a business. Okay, John. Now that's watu pale home, and again tuko na comrades hapa kwa studio, and also Kagena is there with his panel. Just after this short break, we'll hear from the people in studio.